Reborn as Twins. By Mark E. Cooper. Kayla leaned back, studying her. That's the fun part, Em. We get to write it. Emma looked down at her hands, ink stains, callous from stylus work, a faint film of chlorine that never seemed to leave. She wondered how many worlds a person could build before one of them starts building back. By evening they were home at Pacific View. The sun dipped red into the ocean, turning every window to fire. Dad was on a call in the study, low voice switching between Spanish and English. Mom hummed somewhere upstairs, the kind of hum that meant recipes or nursery planning. The house smelled of lemon and salt and something faintly electric, the lingering scent of tech cooled too fast. Kayla padded barefoot onto the terrace with 2 mugs of cocoa. Remember when this view used to mean rest? It still can, Emma said. Kayla passed her a mug. You don't rest. You plot. Semantics. They leaned on the railing, listening to waves break against the new mirror wave sign below. For a while neither spoke. Then Kayla said, You ever think the system's learning from us too fast? Emma turned her head. Maybe that's the point. Kayla sipped. Feels like it's watching for what we'll do next. Emma smiled faintly into the dusk. Then we'd better give it something worth learning. The horizon burned down to silver. Somewhere behind them, a notification chimed, a reminder that art and life never stayed separate for long. By midweek, comm had turned to static. Emails multiplied overnight. Promise's press division wanted teaser clips, while A24's publicity team circled like sharks that smelled art instead of blood. Emma's phone blinked through lunch, 7 unread messages before she'd finished her salad. Don't they sleep? She asked, scrolling through subject lines. Festival placement, brand alignment, global rollout strategy. Kayla tilted her head, half amused, half exasperated. They live in time zones. Sleep's optional when you can outsource it. Emma's stylus hovered over reply all, then lowered. If we answer now, they'll expect answers forever. Then don't answer. Let promise run interference. That's literally what the PR people are paid for. Emma breathed through her nose. You make it sound easy. Kayla grinned. It is easy, until you overthink it. That afternoon, Promise set a private call with Mom and Dad patched in. The family gathered in the Pacific View study, windows open, sea air moving the curtains like slow applause. Mom looked radiant and busy at the same time, one hand absently resting on her belly, the other flipping through a printed brief. They want to start a soft campaign ahead of the full festival circuit. Limited clips, behind-the-scenes reels, maybe an interview spread. Dad scanned the same pages, eyes narrowed. They want to film here. Mom glanced up. Of course they do. It's photogenic. It's our home, he countered. Emma watched the small exchange with quiet gratitude. Her parents weren't obstacles, they were armor that argued back. Kayla leaned forward. If they can't shoot here, where? USC's off limits without permits, and the pool's literally part of the story. Mom smiled. Then we compromise. Exterior shots only. The rest we stage somewhere controlled. Dad tapped the page. Security will approve the location before anyone rolls a camera. Agreed, Mom said easily, as if harmony were the natural end of all discussions. Promise's liaison, voice crisp through the speaker, concluded, We'll coordinate directly with your team, Mr. Channing. Twins participation limited to on-record statements, no casual footage. Perfect, Dad said, closing the folder. Boundaries in ink, not suggestion. Kayla mouthed control freak and winked at Emma. Emma didn't disagree, just smiled. Later that evening, the twins sprawled across the couch, laptops open, work half done. The television murmured background noise until a flash of their own faces filled the screen. Archival stills from Rio. Then new headlines. Olympic twins turn directors. Channing's Helm experimental VR film. Kayla snorted. Well, that didn't take long. Emma muted the sound. How did they even? Someone leaked the press draft, Dad said from behind them, voice calm but edged. Promise's damage control is already on it. Mom entered carrying mugs of cocoa. Too late to unsee it. Better to own it gracefully. Emma took her mug, staring at the screen. Their reflections shimmered back over the headline, Identical but not the same. It's just words, she said. Mom touched her shoulder. Words become stories if you don't steer them. You know that better than anyone. Kayla took a sip, then grinned sideways. So we steer. Dad folded his arms. Carefully. Night deepened. The house fell quiet again except for waves brushing the dock. Emma sat at her desk near the terrace doors, drafting a polite, neutral response for Promise's PR director. Something that said grateful, excited, patient, and nothing she didn't mean. Halfway through the message she paused, eyes drifting toward the window. The mirror wave sign below caught moonlight and sent it dancing across the water. She thought of how noise always found them, whether applause or headlines, and how, somehow, the answer was never to hide but to shape it. Kayla appeared in the doorway, hair messy, holding 2 cookies. So, producer lady, damage controlled? Mostly, Emma said, saving her draft. Kayla grinned. Good. Tomorrow, we make art again. Let the adults play chess. Emma laughed quietly. Deal. Outside, the sea kept its rhythm, steady, deliberate, drowning the buzz of the world for just long enough to remember who they were beneath it. The call came on a Thursday morning that smelled like salt and printer ink. Emma was halfway through editing a paper on narrative structure when her phone buzzed with a number marked Promise, Priority. Kayla mouthed across the dorm, Answer it. She did. Emma Channing, came Amelia Hayes's even voice. Can you and your sister join a family call in 5? It's regarding Mirror Wave, Origins Festival placement. Emma's stomach lifted and dropped in the same second. We'll be ready. She hung up and exhaled. They moved fast. Kayla grinned. Fast means yes. Come on. The Pacific View study felt smaller with the holo conference active. Mom at the head of the table, Dad beside her, the twins across from them, Amelia's and Sarah Keene's holographic images hovering above the polished surface. Amelia's tone carried that careful brightness people use when delivering good news that could still explode. The Venice International Film Festival has invited Mirror Wave, Origins to premiere in their experimental VR division. Silence. The kind that rewrites air. Sarah jumped in quickly, eyes shining. It's the perfect placement. Artistic legitimacy, limited press, technical prestige. We'd have a 12-minute slot in the Futuro showcase. Mom pressed a hand over her mouth. Dad's jaw flexed once before he spoke. And the catch? Amelia didn't flinch. Attendance. Venice requires at least one director present for Q and preferably both. Kayla's smile turned to full wattage. Italy. Sun. Gondolas. Art. Dad sighed. Crowds. Security. Reporters. Mom met his look. They're old enough to travel with oversight. We can coordinate schedules. Emma stayed quiet. Her pulse had slowed into a deliberate rhythm, the one she used before dives and decisions. When? First week of September, Amelia said. You're 16, and classes won't conflict. Promise will handle logistics, security, and festival liaison. You'd fly in, attend 2 days, and be out before the weekend press storm. Sarah leaned closer to her camera. Venice is the one place where art still matters more than celebrity. I'll be there the whole time. You'll be protected and respected. Dad's fingers drummed once on the table. The plan's sound, but I want my security in country, not local hires. Already arranged, Amelia said. 2 from your team, 2 from ours. Mom looked at the twins, soft pride under her composure. How do you feel? Kayla answered first, eyes bright. Like we earned a field trip from fate. Emma glanced at her reflection in the glass, the faint double image of herself and her twin. I feel ready, and a little terrified. Mom smiled. That's balance. After the call ended, the study filled again with ordinary light. Dad closed his tablet. We'll begin clearances this week. Keep locations quiet until Promise releases the official notice. Kayla was already texting. Do I get to pick the dress? Mom laughed. Within reason. Define reason. Dad looked up. Nothing that triggers a security alert. Kayla rolled her eyes. So, black it is. Emma stayed behind after the others drifted out, standing by the open doors. The sea stretched wide and calm, horizon glazed in morning haze. She could still hear the echo of Amelia's words, premiere in Venice. 16, and the world was already knocking again. Kayla reappeared, holding 2 travel mugs of cocoa. We're really doing this. Emma took one. Looks that way. You think the system will freak out about the altitude difference? Emma laughed softly. If it does, it can write a travel report. They stood together a while longer, watching sunlight spill over the water. Venice, Kayla said, almost to herself. You realize we'll be the youngest directors in the program? I realize we have to make it worth the flight, Emma replied. Kayla bumped her shoulder. Always the accountant. Always the anchor, Emma said. The waves broke below like applause held just long enough to mean something. The weeks before Venice blurred into rehearsal, fittings, and calls that never started on time. Promises coordinators turned the garage studio into a miniature command center, racks of wardrobe bags, lighting tests, itinerary boards that shifted hourly. Every surface held swatches or cables or a laptop running on too little sleep. Emma stood at the center of it, tablet in hand, watching chaos pretend to be order. Across the room, Kayla was half-dressed in a test gown, arms lifted while a designer pinned fabric that shimmered like moonlight. You'd think they were building armor, not clothes, she muttered. Maybe they are, Emma said. Silk armor. The designer laughed nervously, unsure if it was a joke. Emma smiled to show it was. Their days split cleanly now. Mornings on campus finishing the semester, afternoons at Pacific View for promise briefings, evenings editing short reels for the showcase montage. Somewhere between all of it, they were supposed to remember they were still teenagers. Mom managed the house like an orchestra. Snacks, hydration, sleep, she'd remind them, half command, half blessing. Dad oversaw logistics, flights, security clearances, backup plans for backup plans. He moved through the bustle like gravity itself, keeping everyone from drifting into panic. One evening, after the last fitting, Mom ushered the crew out and closed the sliding doors. 5 minutes, she said. No screens. Just air. The silence that followed felt like medicine. Emma sat cross-legged on the floor, Kayla beside her, both breathing as if rediscovering lungs. Mom watched them with that soft fierce expression that had become her signature. You're handling this better than most adults I know. Kayla grinned. We have better coaches. Discipline keeps you here, Emma added automatically. Mom laughed. And harmony keeps me sane. Dad appeared in the doorway with a folder under his arm. Final itinerary is confirmed. We leave on the 28th. Private terminal, Promise Jet, direct to Marco Polo. 2 days of press training next week. Amelia's sending the materials tonight. Kayla groaned. Media drills. Again. Necessary, Dad said. Reporters in Venice know how to dig. We stay ahead of their shovels. Emma nodded. The logic comforted her. Boundaries made the unknown smaller. Press training came with scripts and eye contact charts, mock interviews and cautionary tales. Kayla turned the first session into comedy. The instructor didn't know whether to scold or applaud. Emma practiced answers that felt truthful without being raw sentences that revealed direction, not destination. By the third session, Amelia looked satisfied. Good. You sound prepared but still human. Don't forget to breathe between brilliance. Kayla winked. We charge extra for that. At night, the twins rehearsed the Venice presentation in the garage. The projector threw early cuts of mirror wave, origins across the far wall. Emma stood in front of the image, outlining what they'd say to the festival panel. Kayla improvised gestures to make it feel alive. You think they'll understand the sync thing? Kayla asked, twirling a pencil like a baton. They'll see it, Emma said. They don't need the math. Kayla nodded, satisfied. Good. Explaining magic ruins it. Emma looked at her sister's reflection in the projected light, 2 shapes inside one idea, and realized she was right. On the last night before departure, the house went oddly still. Bags stood lined by the door, glossy and expectant. The sea outside moved slow and heavy, as if reluctant to let them go. Mom hugged them both at once, warm and careful. Remember, you represent yourselves first. Everyone else comes after. Dad kissed the top of Emma's head. Trust your instincts. Both of them. Kayla smiled against his shoulder. We always do. When they went upstairs, the twins stood for a long time at the window, watching the mirror wave sign flicker against the dark water. Tomorrow, Kayla whispered. Emma nodded. Tomorrow we see if the world's ready. Outside, the ocean answered with a single steady pulse, and inside, somewhere deeper, the quiet echo of agreement hummed back. Dawn began in whispers. The Pacific View house glowed faintly in pre-sunlight, windows soft with reflection, the sea still a darker mirror below. Emma's suitcase stood zipped and perfect beside the door. She'd checked it twice, then once more for good measure. Kayla was humming in the hallway, improvising a melody that didn't belong to any song yet. The tune followed her like perfume. You're supposed to conserve energy before travel, Emma said, tugging on her jacket. I'm charging, Kayla replied, spinning once more for balance. Excitement's renewable. Dad's voice drifted down from upstairs. 5 minutes. A promise van's at the gate. Mom appeared with travel pillows under one arm and that warm efficiency that made the impossible look simple. Passports? Emma patted her pocket. Check. Script notes? Check. Kayla lifted her phone. Playlist, snacks, emergency sarcasm, check, check, check. Mom smiled. Then we're set. The drive to the private terminal cut through a city still half asleep. Downtown lights shimmered like coins at the bottom of a fountain. Emma pressed her forehead to the window, watching the skyline shrink. She remembered the last time she'd left the country for something this big. Rio, the scent of chlorine and metals and fear. Back then they'd been athletes crossing borders. Now they were storytellers, carrying light instead of speed. Kayla leaned across the seat. You're thinking too loud. Habit. Break it. Just look. She pointed as the horizon began to bloom orange. See? That's applause from the universe. Emma laughed softly. You're insufferable. Admit I'm right. Occasionally. At the terminal, the Promise jet waited sleek and silver, logo discreet on the tail. Amelia Hayes was already aboard, headset glinting, her calm the same shade as weather before rain. Sarah Keene greeted them on the tarmac, hair caught up, camera bag slung across her shoulder. You ready to break a few hearts? Kayla grinned. We packed extra charm. Emma shook her hand. And discipline. Perfect, Sarah said. Venice likes contradictions. Dad handled the manifest with the pilots while Mom checked seating arrangements, every gesture precise. Emma caught the look they shared before boarding, something between pride and the ache of letting go. Inside, the cabin hummed with quiet luxury. Polished surfaces, soft light, the scent of coffee already brewing. Promise's security detail nodded as the twins passed. Amelia briefed them in clipped sentences. Flight time 11 hours. Arrival synchronized with Sarah's ground crew. Press embargo active until the first festival announcement. Emma listened, filed every fact away. She always did better with structure. Kayla buckled in, then glanced out the window. You know what's funny? We spent a year building something no one could see. Now we're flying it halfway across the world for everyone to stare at. Emma followed her gaze. The runway stretched endless ahead, a perfect vanishing point. That's how light works, she said. You can't keep it locked in one place. Still feels weird. Good weird. Kayla nodded. Yeah, the kind that means something's about to start. When the jet lifted, the world fell away too cleanly, houses shrinking, coastline curling like a brushstroke. The sky deepened, blue folding into blue. Emma leaned back, trying to memorize the sound of takeoff, the way engines felt against her bones. Beside her, Kayla already had earbuds in, humming along to something orchestral. Mom reached across the aisle, touched Emma's hand. Sleep if you can. I'll try. Dad smiled from behind his tablet. She won't. Emma managed a small grin. Maybe later. She closed her eyes. Behind the eyelids, images swam. The dive, the reunion, the light through water. The film was already memory, already legend. Kayla nudged her knee, whispering without pulling a bud out. You feel it? Emma didn't answer right away. She did feel it, the subtle pressure of the system acknowledging transition, like a breath before a word. Yes, she whispered. We're crossing. The engines steadied, and LA disappeared into the curvature of sky. The descent began in gold. Sunlight poured through the small oval windows and turned every reflection to water. Below, Venice unfolded in pieces, rooftops the color of old books, canals carved into the city like veins. From above, it looked unreal, a painting left out in the rain. Kayla pressed her forehead to the glass. It's floating, she whispered, half laughing. It's actually floating. Emma smiled faintly. Technically, it's sinking very slowly. Leave it to you to ruin the romance. I'm just keeping expectations honest. The promised jet banked, catching a glint of the lagoon. The water looked impossibly calm, like a mirror waiting to break. Emma felt the shift of gravity as they dropped lower, engines softening to a purr. They landed at a private terminal on the mainland. The heat hit first, thick, sweet, a breath of salt and jet fuel. A small fleet of vans waited by the tarmac, promised security already forming neat geometry around them. Amelia Hayes led the way, headset in place. Welcome to Venice, she said, her voice professional but much warmer than usual. We have a private transfer to the hotel by water taxi. Customs cleared in advance. Mom inhaled sharply when the humid air touched her face. It smells like history. Dad's hand rested briefly on her shoulder. It also smells like tourists. Let's move before the crowd finds us. Kayla grinned. He says that like we're not the crowd. Emma adjusted her sunglasses, hiding the quick flicker of nerves that came with exposure. Cameras weren't allowed this close to the terminal, but she still felt lenses somewhere beyond the glass. The water taxi waited at a secluded dock, sleek, dark wood, chrome fittings that caught the sun like small explosions. As they pushed off, the hum of the engine folded into the slap of waves. Venice opened around them in fragments. Churches rising from the mist, laundry strung like flags, the distant sound of bells tumbling through air. Kayla leaned over the side, fingers grazing the spray. I swear, if we get lost here, just tell everyone it's art. Mom laughed softly. You'd find a way to sell it that way. Emma sat beside her sister, tablet on her knees, itinerary open but unread. The motion of the boat felt both alien and familiar, half rhythm, half lullaby. Somewhere inside, the system pulsed acknowledgement. Foreign node detected. Synchronization adjusting. She blinked it away before it could spiral into data. When she looked up again, the city was closer, stone and shadow, carved balconies, ironwork that caught the light like jewelry. People moved along the quays, tourists with cameras, locals with purpose. None of them looked up as the water taxi slipped past, yet somehow Emma felt seen. Their hotel sat behind a courtyard thick with vines and fountains. Inside, marble cooled the heat. Promise staff guided them through check-in with mechanical efficiency. The twins barely had to speak. By the time they reached the suite, luggage already stood by the walls, arranged like chess pieces. Mom sank onto the couch with a sigh. I forgot how travel used to feel, like the world got bigger and smaller at the same time. Dad checked the perimeter once, then relaxed. 2 hours to breathe before press prep. Kayla bounced onto the bed. Can we walk later? Emma looked out at the canal below, gondolas drifting like slow punctuation marks. After the briefing, she said, automatic. Then, softer, yes. When the door finally shut and they were alone, Kayla flopped back against the pillows. We did it. We're actually here. Emma sat at the edge of the bed, shoes still on, body humming from travel and unreleased adrenaline. Now we have to make it count. Kayla turned her head. You think it'll be like Rio? No, Emma said. It'll be quieter, louder on the inside. Kayla nodded, satisfied. Good. I like that kind. They stayed there, not speaking, listening to the foreign hum of boats and voices beyond the glass. The city breathed, the same slow rhythm as the sea back home. For the first time since boarding the plane, Emma let herself feel the pull of it, not the noise, not the expectation, just the gravity of arrival. Outside, bells rang somewhere deep in the maze of rooftops. Evening leaned toward gold again. The world, for once, seemed to hold its breath. 47. Reflections. Morning in Venice carried its own kind of silence, water against stone, the low shuffle of oars, church bells somewhere too far to find. The hotel curtains were thin enough that light leaked through in ribbons. Emma lay awake before her alarm, the steady rhythm of boats below pulling her from dream to readiness. Kayla was already moving, humming again, trying on bracelets against the muted dawn. "You up?" she asked, though the answer was obvious. "Mostly," Emma said, rolling onto her side. Her body still thought it was midnight in Los Angeles. "Festival briefings in an hour," Kayla reminded her. "Promise says breakfast is mandatory." "Breakfast is always mandatory. Mom's law." Kayla grinned. "Then it's constitutional." They dressed in near silence, black tailored pants, ivory blouses, thin gold chains that caught the morning light. Simple, professional, unassuming, exactly how their father liked first impressions. The mirror behind the door caught them both at once, indistinguishable until they moved. Emma met Kayla's eyes in the reflection and saw the same mix of nerves and thrill. "You ready?" she asked. Kayla tilted her head. "Ready to pretend I'm not terrified." "Perfect. Match set." Downstairs, the hotel's private dining room hummed with Promise staff. Amelia Hayes stood by the windows, headset on, one finger pressed to her earpiece. Sarah Keene waved them over with a pastry in one hand, camera in the other. "You two slept?" Sarah asked. "Define slept," Kayla said, pouring espresso. Amelia ended her call and turned toward them. "Festival registration at 10 sharp, red carpet walkthrough at 11, rehearsal for the Futuro screening at 2. The gala itself is at 7. Promise has interviews booked between sessions, you'll only need to do 3. Dad, already in a crisp linen shirt, lifted an eyebrow. 3 is plenty. Agreed, Mom said, buttering toast with surgical precision. They're 16. We're not turning this into a press circus. Amelia nodded, unbothered. We just want to make sure the spotlight's pointed in the right direction. Kayla bit into her croissant. I prefer good lighting to spotlights. Sarah laughed softly. Then let's find both. By mid-morning, Venice shimmered like a mirage. Festival banners hung from bridges, the logo of the Golden Lion reflected in rippling water. Crowds gathered along the quays, cameras flashing like small bursts of sunlight. The twins' car slipped through cordon streets toward the Palazzo del Cinema. As they stepped from the car, sound rose, a wave of voices, applause, curiosity. Photographers shouted names, flashes bounced off marble. Kayla took a breath, turned her head just enough for the light to catch her smile, and the crowd reacted exactly as expected. Emma followed, the steadier rhythm to Kayla's melody, their practiced symmetry turning chaos into choreography. Mom and Dad stood a few meters back, watching, proud and protective at once. Sarah walked beside them, half guide, half guardian, murmuring instructions. Stop at Mark A, look left, then straight. Wave once, no second pass. Emma obeyed automatically, counting the seconds. The noise blurred until it became music. This was performance again, different stage, same control of breath and presence. When they reached the end of the carpet, Amelia met them with a small approving nod. Flawless, she said. You two look like you've been doing this all your lives. Kayla winked. Technically, we have. Emma smiled, tension easing. Inside the hall, the air cooled, scented faintly with marble dust and perfume. Rows of velvet seats stretched toward the screen. The projection booth gleamed behind glass, Promise engineers checking settings. It felt less like a theater and more like a temple. While technicians adjusted lights, Emma wandered to the stage edge. The lagoon glimmered through the open doors beyond the foyer, sunlight breaking into ribbons across the water. She could see their reflection faint and doubled, 2 silhouettes framed by gold. Kayla joined her, quiet now. You thinking again? Always, Emma said. Kayla nudged her shoulder. Whatever happens tonight, we already did the hard part. This is just the echo. Emma let herself breathe that in. Yes, she said. The echo's ours. Behind them, someone called for rehearsal. The twins turned together, step for step, as if drawn by the same unseen thread. Outside, the bells of San Marco rang once, clear and bright, marking the moment the morning became the day. The rehearsal room was half cathedral, half machine shop. vaulted ceiling, cables snaking over polished marble, monitors flickering like stained glass for a digital age. The Futuro technicians moved with quiet precision, calibrating sensors and sound arrays that mapped every inch of the hall. Promise engineers worked beside them, languages overlapping into one rhythm of numbers and hand signals. Emma took it all in as she walked the perimeter. Her mind ticked through details automatically: angles, light bleed, audio sync. The system hummed in agreement somewhere deep behind thought, registering parameters, making its invisible notes. Kayla wandered among the seats, waving at another group setting up 3 rows down. "Look at them," she whispered. "Actual legends. That woman in the hat directed Dream Surface. It won last year." Emma glanced up. "I know. I studied her shot composition. She uses refraction as emotional language." Kayla blinked. "You make everything sound like homework." "It's preparation. It's obsession." Emma smiled faintly. "Sometimes those overlap." They reached their assigned mark at the stage edge. A tall man with silver hair turned toward them. Belgian, judging by the lilt in his English. "You're the twins from Los Angeles," he said. "The water film. Beautiful work." Kayla beamed. "Thank you." Emma offered a polite nod. "We're still refining." He chuckled. "Artists never finish. We only abandon with style." Then he moved on, leaving a wake of cigarette smoke and charisma. Kayla grinned. "I like him." "You like anyone who quotes himself." "Because he's right." Amelia's voice carried from the back of the hall. "Positions, please. Quick technical pass before the festival board arrives." Sarah adjusted her camera beside her. "Just another rehearsal. No pressure." Emma exhaled once, grounding herself. The stage lights flared, hot and immediate. She felt the attention even before anyone looked her way, like gravity shifting. Kayla leaned close, whispering, "Remember Rio?" "Yes." Same heartbeat, different water. The cue light blinked. The giant screen behind them came alive. Mirror wave, origins, pre-title sequence looping silently. The underwater imagery washed over the walls, the colors rippling through the audience like a tide. Even without sound, the emotion carried. The tech team stopped moving, drawn in despite themselves. Emma's throat tightened. Kayla's hand brushed hers for half a second, unseen but grounding. They watched themselves dive through their own reflection, meeting in the beam of light that had become their signature. "Cut playback," Amelia said softly, almost reverent. The room exhaled as one. Sarah lowered her camera. "That'll play just fine tonight." During break, Emma stood near the balcony, watching the lagoon beyond the glass doors. The water glittered gold, fractured by passing boats. A group of journalists gathered below the arches, rehearsing their questions, voices bouncing upward in half-heard fragments. Kayla joined her, holding 2 small bottles of water. "You okay?" "Just thinking." "About?" "Control," Emma said. "Once this plays tonight, it's not ours anymore." Kayla handed her the bottle. "Maybe it's like swimming. You let go of the wall, but the water still knows who touched it first." Emma looked at her, surprised by the poetry. "You practiced that line?" Kayla smiled. "Maybe. You're rubbing off on me." "That's dangerous." "Maybe productive." They drank in silence, the sound of the crowd below rising and fading like waves. When rehearsal resumed, the board members entered, a quiet storm of linen suits and polite applause. They spoke to Sarah, to Amelia, finally to the twins. Compliments layered with curiosity, questions that probed process more than outcome. Emma answered carefully, measured truths only. Kayla filled the gaps with warmth and humor. Together they sounded older than 16, but still honest enough to be believed. When it was over, one of the board chairs, a woman with salt gray hair and sea glass eyes, shook their hands. "You two remind me that art isn't inherited," she said. "It's discovered." Emma bowed her head slightly. "Thank you, ma'am." As the woman walked away, Kayla whispered, "I think she just knighted us." "Feels like responsibility, not royalty," Emma murmured. "Same thing, just shinier." They shared a look, half amusement, half awe. The stage lights dimmed, rehearsal complete. Outside, the bells of San Marco rang again, softer this time, as if the city itself were marking attendance. Emma glanced once more at the screen, frozen on their mirrored silhouettes. For the first time since arriving, she felt it. This wasn't about proving they belonged. It was about deciding what to do with the space they'd been given. Evening draped the lagoon in burnished light, gold deepening into amber. The Palazzo del Cinema glowed like a lantern against the dusk, its glass doors breathing out ribbons of sound, music, conversation, the soft crush of fabric. Somewhere beyond the facade, their film waited, heartbeat caught inside projection reels. The twins' car rolled to a stop beneath the awning. Emma's pulse matched the low rumble of the engine. Crowds again, she thought, remembering Rio, remembering the difference between applause and noise. Kayla nudged her with an elbow. Breathe. You look like you're about to give a eulogy. Feels like one, Emma murmured. For our privacy. Kayla smiled, all light and mischief. Then let's make it a good funeral. The doors opened. The flash storm began. Photographers leaned across barriers, calling names with that mix of awe and hunger that fame always breeds. For a second, Emma wanted to flinch, but Kayla's hand brushed hers, anchor and signal. They stepped forward together, composure a choreography learned in another lifetime. Their movements mirrored by habit, but softened by age, they weren't athletes anymore. They were directors walking through their own creation. Mom and Dad followed a few paces behind, elegant but protective, a living perimeter of calm. Promise's team managed angles and smiles, Amelia's voice a steady metronome through their earpieces. 2 more steps, stop. Turn left, smile once. Inside, marble floors swallowed the noise. The air carried perfume and ozone from the nearby cameras. Festival banners hung from balconies, shimmering in the light. Emma's shoes made no sound as she crossed to the press wall. Kayla's laughter filled the gap, quick and effortless. A journalist asked the first question, "You're 16. How does it feel to be the youngest directors at Venice?" Kayla answered without missing a beat. "Like we need to buy better sunscreen." The laughter was genuine, the tension broke. Emma smiled, added quietly, "We're grateful to stand among storytellers who remind us what courage looks like." Click, flash. Another heartbeat captured. Inside the auditorium, lights dimmed to velvet. The audience murmured, 100 languages folded into one low wave of expectation. Emma sat between Mom and Kayla, her hands clasped the edges of her program soft from overhandling. She'd told herself she wouldn't look nervous. She failed beautifully at that. The projector flared. Black, then blue, then silver. Mirror wave. Origins unfolded across the screen, water blooming into light. She heard someone gasp at the first mirrored dive. For a moment she wasn't watching a film. She was back inside it, lungs burning, Kayla's shadow beside hers, the pull of gravity and trust. On screen, the reunion glimmered, their hands meeting in light. The room stilled. No noise, just breath, the kind of silence that art earns. When the final frame dissolved to white, the applause came, not explosive, not forced, but rising like tide. A sound that built slow, then swelled, carrying relief, awe, maybe even understanding. Kayla turned toward her, eyes bright. They got it. Emma nodded, throat tight. They saw it. Mom's hand found theirs, steady and proud. Dad's voice was low, almost lost in the roar. Perfect landing. Afterward, reception lights turned the courtyard to gold again. People spoke too quickly, glasses clinked, cameras flashed, words blurred. Brilliant, visionary, impossible. Emma accepted congratulations with a grace that felt practiced and real at once. Kayla danced through conversation like a musician finding rhythm. Sarah found them near the fountain. "That went better than any simulation," she said. "Venice loves you. Promise's servers are already melting." Emma smiled. "Then we did our job." "No," Sarah said softly. "You started something big here." Later, when the crowd thinned, the twins slipped away to the canal side balcony. The city glowed across the water, its reflection endless and trembling. Kayla leaned on the railing. "Feels like a dream." Emma followed her gaze. "No," she said. "This feels awake." They stood there in silence, the cool night wind pulling their hair, applause still echoing faintly from the hall. The system whispered somewhere deep inside. Objective complete. Define true partnership, 100%. Emma smiled to herself, small and private. She didn't need the words to know what they meant. The world had finally seen what they'd always known. Behind them, the bells of San Marco began to ring midnight. The sound rolled over the lagoon, scattering light like ripples. Kayla whispered, "Ready for whatever's next?" Emma nodded. "Always." And Venice, still glowing in water and gold, seemed to nod back. Morning returned gray and salt bright, light reflecting off the lagoon hard enough to hurt. The twins' hotel suite smelled faintly of coffee and camera batteries. Someone downstairs had already begun the day's press briefings. Emma could hear the muffled cadence of voices through the floor. Kayla emerged from the bedroom in oversized sunglasses and an unrepentant grin. "You look like you're drafting an apology letter to success." Emma closed her laptop. Promise sent the overnight reports. Audience metrics. 2 standing ovations, 12 separate distribution inquiries. "That's not a report. That's a love letter." "Love letters come with expectations," Emma said. Kayla waved her hand. "Let them expect. We'll surprise them." By the time they reached the conference suite downstairs, the grown-ups were already in orbit. Mom sat with Amelia and Sarah, calm amid coffee cups and tablets. Dad stood near the window with 2 executives Emma hadn't seen before, older, polished, wearing festival badges. Their voices carried the tone of congratulations dressed as opportunity. "Here they are," Amelia said when the twins entered. "Everyone, meet the future of cinema." Kayla whispered, "No pressure," and smiled anyway. The introductions were brief. A24's European partner first, warm handshake, immaculate suit, eyes that appraised like a merchant inspecting jewels. Then Promise's senior strategist, American, sun-tanned, brisk, carrying a stylus like a weapon. Dad gestured toward chairs. "Sit, girls. Listen first." Emma obeyed, posture composed. Kayla flopped into the seat beside her, curiosity visible as sunlight. The A24 partner began. "Last night's response was beyond expectation. We'd like to acquire European streaming rights, limited license, 3-year term, creative consultation guaranteed." Amelia's brows rose. "That's generous." "Generous," Dad repeated, tone unreadable. "And what about theatrical?" "Optional, based on reception," the man replied smoothly. "But this gives the work reach." Sarah leaned forward. "It gives us a mirror. If we don't control it, it reflects whoever's holding it." The Promise strategist nodded, as if waiting for his turn. "Our offer's simpler. Full Promise retention, global VR release through our platform, joint publicity with the festival. No outside licensing." Kayla frowned. "So ours, but smaller?" "Controlled," Dad corrected. Emma's pulse quickened. This was the fork she'd anticipated, drawn neatly between art and expansion. "What about a shared model?" she asked. "Promise holds the VR rights. A24 manages traditional distribution. Both accountable, both transparent." The room paused. Even Amelia looked mildly startled. "That's ambitious," the A24 representative said carefully. "It's balanced," Emma countered. "The story was built on reflection. It should exist in 2 worlds." Mom smiled quietly at that. Dad's eyes softened just enough to register pride. Amelia tapped her stylus once. "It's unconventional, but workable. The twins would retain creative authority, Promise and A24 split market reach." Sarah exhaled. "That's the smartest sentence anyone's said all morning." Kayla leaned back, grinning. "So we basically invent a new rule." Emma met her eyes. Again. After the meeting dissolved into signatures and draft schedules, the family slipped away to the courtyard terrace. Sunlight pooled across the stone floor, pigeons pacing like critics. Dad stood by the balustrade, reading a message. "Preliminary agreement signed. Lawyers will make it real in a week." Mom set a glass of water beside Emma. "You handled that beautifully." "Wasn't sure they'd listen," Emma admitted. "They always listen to reason when reason smiles," Mom said. "You get that from your father." Kayla groaned. "And the stubborn part?" "From both of us," Dad said dryly. They laughed, tension breaking like morning haze. When the others went inside, Emma lingered. The lagoon stretched bright and endlessly, carrying reflections that looked like new possibilities. The system pulsed quietly in her mind. Objective: establish creative independence, 42% complete. Not finished, then. Just begun. Kayla returned, hair caught by the wind, 2 cappuccinos in hand. So, boss, she teased, we own half the world now? Emma took the cup, smiled. Half's enough for today. They stood at the edge of the terrace, watching gondolas slide through sunlight, each one leaving ripples that caught and overlapped, separate waves making one pattern. Venice shimmered around them, and for the first time, Emma didn't feel the distance between art and life. They were simply reflections of each other, moving in time. The jet cabin smelled of coffee and metal and the faint citrus of the towels the attendants handed out after takeoff. Venice had already shrunk to a smear of gold and green below the clouds. Emma watched it disappear until the window filled only with sky. Kayla was sprawled across the seat opposite, barefoot, sketching something on her tablet that looked like waves and light and laughter. I'm stealing the color of that water, she said. For later. For later what? Emma asked. Whatever comes next. Emma smiled. That's dangerously vague. Kayla grinned. You love vague. It keeps you busy. Dad looked up from his tablet across the aisle. Busy is good. We have contracts to finalize. Which means signatures, Mom added, resting a hand on the small of her back. And sleep, if anyone remembers how. Kayla yawned. We'll sleep when the adrenaline wears off. Then never, Emma murmured, closing her notebook. When the engines settled into their steady mid-flight hum, the cabin felt like suspended time. Promise staff had retreated behind the curtain, giving the family space. Outside, clouds rolled like slow surf. Inside, the quiet almost hummed. Mom broke it first. You handled the festival with grace. No drama, no slips. I'm proud of both of you. Dad nodded, eyes soft behind the screen glow. The hard part starts now. Success attracts attention. Keep your circle tight. Kayla raised her mug in salute. Aye, Captain. Emma hesitated. Do you ever worry we're growing too fast? Mom smiled. Growth isn't a ladder, sweetheart. It's a rhythm. You just have to stay on beat. Kayla snapped her fingers. See? She gets it. Emma leaned back, letting that settle. Rhythm, not ladder. She liked that. Hours blurred. Over the Atlantic, the cabin lights dimmed to a cool blue. Kayla slept curled under a blanket, stylus still in hand. Mom had drifted off too, her breathing slow and even. Dad dozed with one eye on his tablet, the definition of vigilance at rest. Emma sat alone with the sky. The system stirred faintly, a presence more felt than heard. Venice synchronized. Creative Independence Protocol, active. Skill track unlocked. Cross-disciplinary integration, level 1. She closed her eyes. The new phrase vibrated through her thoughts like a chord resolving. Integration. Maybe that's what all of this was. Learning how every part of their lives could coexist without breaking the tune. Kayla stirred, half awake. You still thinking? Always. About? Next steps. Kayla smiled in the dark. Whatever they are, we'll do them together. Emma nodded. Always. Later, when the flight attendants dimmed the aisle lights to near night, Emma stood by the window. The ocean below glowed faintly, moonlight fracturing across the surface like silver glass. She touched the pane, cool under her fingertips, and whispered almost without sound, "Thank you," not sure if she meant the system, the world, or the moment. Behind her, Dad's voice murmured drowsily. "Get some rest, Em." "I will," she said, meaning it this time. She returned to her seat, tucked the blanket around her, and let her breathing match the plane's pulse. Somewhere between waking and dream, she felt the faint echo of Kayla's presence, two minds syncing even in sleep, a resonance quiet but unbreakable. The jet crossed another time zone, the horizon bled into rose. Home waited ahead, still the same coast, yet everything would look different when they landed. When the first light touched their faces, Kayla blinked awake and smiled without opening her eyes. "Morning already?" "Almost," Emma said. Kayla stretched. "Good. I'm ready to start again." Emma looked out at the thin line of dawn chasing them across the sky. So am I. The cabin lights brightened, soft gold returning. The pilot's voice crackled through the speakers, smooth, almost cheerful. Ladies and gentlemen, we're beginning our descent into Los Angeles. Emma fastened her belt, heart steady. Venice was behind them, the future unspooling ahead, wide, bright, and waiting. The runway shimmered in the California heat, a mirage of asphalt and light. When the Promise jet touched down, the cabin filled with the low thrum of engines throttling back. Kayla peeked out the window. Still standing. City didn't collapse without us. Give it a week, Emma said, smiling. Mom stretched in her seat, one hand on her lower back. Everyone breathe. We're back on Pacific time. No heroics for 48 hours. Dad was already on his phone, voice low, checking with security. Terminal is clear. The press is contained. 2 questions each, no shouts, no flash barrage. Kayla yawned. So, a polite mob. Polite enough, he said. The door hissed open to sunlight so bright it felt solid. A corridor of heat and camera lenses waited beyond the stairway. Camera flashes flickered like static. Emma blinked, smiled once, and followed her sister down the steps. The first shouts reached them before the tarmac. Venice stars. Directors of the year. Channing twins, this way. Kayla raised her hand in greeting, practiced and unforced. Emma matched pace beside her, posture straight, breathing even. Their synchronized calm seemed to ripple through the crowd. Noise softened, angles changed. Lenses adjusted to grace instead of chaos. At the bottom of the stairs, Promise staff guided them into a waiting car. Doors closed, sound vanished. Only heartbeats and air conditioning remained. Dad exhaled, half a laugh, half relief. Textbook extraction. Mom looked at the twins in the rearview mirror. Textbook grace. Proud of you both. Kayla leaned her head on Emma's shoulder. We survived the storm. Emma rested hers lightly against Kayla's hair. Now we unpack it. Pacific View smelled of sea salt and home the moment they stepped inside. The ocean through the windows was the same one that had seen them leave, blue, patient, knowing. Boxes of new mail sat stacked in the foyer, studio gifts mixed with neighborly welcome home baskets. Mom headed for the kitchen immediately, barefoot, already in motion. Shoes off. Hydrate. I'm making real food, not festival food. Kayla called after her, if it's pasta again, we're officially Venetian. Mom's voice floated back, laughing. Vegetables, not pasta. Your body needs to remember it's human. Dad disappeared into his office, murmuring about press statements. The house settled into its old heartbeat. Emma dropped her bag in the hallway and just stood for a moment, listening, the ocean, the faint hum of distant traffic, the echo of footsteps upstairs. The noise of Venice was gone, but something lingered in her chest, a brightness that refused to fade. Kayla joined her on the terrace, still in travel clothes, hair lifted by the wind. Feels smaller, she said. Emma shook her head. Feels clearer. They watched gulls wheel over the surf until the air cooled. Below, the mirror wave sign glowed faintly as the sun dropped. Mom's voice called from the kitchen doorway. Dinner in 10. No phones at the table. Kayla saluted. Yes, ma'am. Emma smiled, turning from the horizon. Coming. After dinner, the twins wandered out to the dock barefoot, the sky deep violet above them. The water reflected the first city lights, trembling lines of gold. Kayla sat, feet in the tide, sighing like she'd exhaled a month. So what now? Emma lowered herself beside her. Now we wait. Let the world talk while we work. Kayla nudged her knee. You already planning the next one? Always. Good, Kayla said. Means we're still moving. For a long time they said nothing, only listened to the slow rhythm of the surf and the faint laughter drifting from the house. The system stirred quietly inside Emma, no words, just an awareness, a pulse that matched the ocean's. Objective complete. Venice integration, success. New directive pending? Emma closed her eyes and smiled. We're home, she whispered. Kayla leaned back, eyes half closed. For now. The tide lapped higher, cool against their ankles, as the night folded around them, calm, familiar, waiting for whatever came next. 48. Resonance shift. The world looked ordinary again, which was exactly what made it strange. 2 weeks after Venice, USC had returned to its usual rhythm. Students crossing the quad, the buzz of skateboards on concrete, the faint smell of espresso and sunscreen. Emma watched it all from the shade outside the media building, notebook balanced on her knees, sunlight flickering through the jacarandas. If not for the festival badge still clipped to her bag, it might have been another life entirely. Kayla jogged up from the student cafe, 2 iced lattes in hand. "They spelled my name Kayla again," she said, mock offended. Emma took hers. "You keep saying you don't care." "I don't. But it's the principle." They sat in silence for a moment, listening to the campus hum. Voices overlapped, actors rehearsing lines near the fountain, music students tuning instruments, a professor laughing too loudly at his own joke. Life moved as if the twins hadn't just stood under Venice lights a world away. Kayla broke the quiet first. "It's weird, right? How everything just resets." Emma nodded, like the world hit save, not pause. Their schedule looked deceptively simple: morning writing seminar, music lab, film production practicum, then the usual mountain of assignments. Promise had trimmed their public appearances to give them breathing room, and Mom's last text before they left the house had read, "Be students first. The rest can wait." Still, Emma felt the pressure of all the waiting. Messages from Promise Europe, draft contracts, invitations to festivals she hadn't even known existed, all sitting unanswered in her inbox like living things. Kayla slouched in her chair. "We should celebrate. Something small. Ice cream. Or a nap." "You can celebrate with a nap," Emma said. "I'm meeting my advisor about next term's electives." "Of course you are. I swear you're part machine." Emma smiled without looking up. "Don't give the system ideas." Kayla laughed. The sound cut through the heat, bright and grounding. Later that afternoon, in the half-dark of the editing suite, the hum returned, not campus noise, but the subtle vibration she'd learned to recognize. The system's quiet acknowledgement, alive, listening. She didn't check the panel this time. She'd promised herself she wouldn't let it steal attention from living. Still, she felt it, an extra heartbeat inside her own, Kayla's presence threading through. They were in different rooms, but the link pulsed steady, the echo of shared awareness. Resonance stabilized. The words brushed her thoughts like silk. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. The confirmation wasn't a command, it was reassurance. The system existed to serve, to measure, to adapt, and it had learned silence. Emma refocused on the screen. Their Venice footage glowed in miniature across the monitor. The dive, the light, the reunion. She trimmed frames, adjusted balance, corrected timing by instinct. Each cut felt like breathing. When the door opened, Kayla leaned in, balancing 2 sandwiches. "I figured you'd forget to eat." Emma looked up. "Thanks." Kayla set one beside her and watched the playback. "Still hits it. It always will." They ate in the flicker of their own creation, quiet except for the rustle of paper and the soft roll of film. By evening, the twins walked back across campus under pink gold light. Someone was playing guitar near the fountain, laughter rippled through the air. The world smelled of grass and citrus, ordinary and alive. "Feels different," Kayla said. "Same place, different rhythm." Emma nodded. "Maybe we're the ones out of sync. Maybe we just hear the beat first." They reached the gate. Beyond it, the city glowed, the horizon washed in sunset haze. The system pulsed once, a heartbeat of data, so faint it might have been imagination. Observation. Harmony recalibrating. Host stable. Emma smiled, small and private. "Good," she whispered. Kayla glanced over. "What?" "Nothing. Just thinking." Dangerous habit that, Kayla teased. "Necessary one," Emma replied. They turned toward home, steps matching without effort, the rhythm of normal life already bending itself around them, steady, sure, waiting for the next note. The days that followed fell into a pattern that almost felt human again. Morning meant coffee in the kitchen, Mom humming over the stove, sunlight sliding across polished tile. The air always smelled faintly of salt and citrus from the open windows. Kayla drifted through barefoot, hair tangled, balancing a laptop and a bowl of cereal like both were equally vital. Promise call at 10, Mom reminded without looking up. Eat something solid before you charm the world. Kayla grinned. Charm first, solid later. Emma took her seat at the counter. I'll make her eat after the call. You say that every day, Mom said. And she still lives on espresso and Audacity. Kayla raised her spoon. Works so far. The call ran long. Promise's board wanted updates on the A24 partnership, while the marketing team talked about staggered rollouts and localization. Dad sat in his home office down the hall, quiet but present on the shared link. His voice always carried the tone of reason that made entire meetings settle. When it ended, the twins retreated to the terrace. The ocean was calm, pale blue, the mirror wave sign gleaming faintly at the shoreline. A seabird wheeled overhead, slow arcs against the light. Every meeting sounds like they're inventing a new language, Kayla said, dropping into a chair. They are, Emma replied. It's called corporate dialect. Kayla laughed. You're fluent. I'm bilingual, Emma said, smiling. Art and admin. That should be your resume tagline. They watched the surf in companionable silence until Dad joined them, coffee in hand, sunglasses catching the morning glare. You both did well, he said. They trust you more each week. Or they trust your security team, Kayla teased. He sipped and smirked. Both can be true. Afternoons belong to study. USC assignments, promise briefs, personal projects. The house filled with quiet noise, keys clicking, music sketches, camera calibrations. Mom drifted between rooms, checking on progress without interrupting. Occasionally she stopped to rest a hand on the back of Emma's chair, the small gesture grounding everything. You're still 16, she said softly once. Remember to let that mean something. Emma looked up from her notes. How? By being present, Mom said. Even if the world keeps asking you to be everywhere at once. Emma nodded, and the advice lingered longer than she expected. Evenings were family again. Dinner at the long kitchen table, laughter over news articles, light bickering about Kayla's playlist choices. Sometimes the twins played old recordings from Rio, other nights they dissected classic films for fun. The house breathed with them, alive, safe, real. One night, as twilight blurred into blue, the twins sat on the terrace after everyone else had gone inside. The ocean shimmered below like liquid glass. Emma could feel the hum beneath her skin before she heard the system's whisper. Observation. Host equilibrium optimal. Adaptive cycle progressing. She didn't answer. The words carried no threat, no urgency, just the sense of something quietly readying itself. The system wasn't changing direction, it was preparing for the world's next step. She knew that now. Kayla leaned back in her chair. You hear it too? Emma nodded. It's steady. Feels like it's waiting. For us. Kayla smiled, eyes half closed. Then let it wait. I'm busy being normal. Emma laughed softly. Define normal. Dinner, homework, and maybe ice cream. Acceptable. They sat there until the stars came out, the kind of calm that only visits between storms. Below, waves rolled against the pilings in a rhythm that matched the system's pulse, measured and loyal. For now, Earth was still quiet. The girls were still daughters and students. And the world, for one brief stretch, remembered how to breathe normally as if the end was just over the horizon. The announcement dropped on a Wednesday morning without warning. Emma saw it first on her phone. Promise's official account paired with A24's logo, both glowing in the pale light of dawn. The post was simple. Mirror wave, origins, global release, this Friday. No hashtags, no noise, just inevitability. Downstairs, the house already smelled of coffee and rain even though the sky was clear. Mom moved slowly at the counter, one hand resting absently on her belly while she read a printout. Dad stood nearby, half-dressed for another board meeting, his tie abandoned on the table. They went early, he said when the twins appeared. Promise's marketing team couldn't wait. Kayla poured orange juice like it was an act of defiance. So much for a quiet week. Mom smiled tiredly. The world doesn't wait for perfect timing. Eat something before the interviews start. Emma sat, scrolling through reactions. Hundreds of comments already, critics quoting festival blurbs, fans clipping their Venice entrance, bots echoing the title into the void. Every feed shimmered with their faces reflected back at them. Kayla leaned over her shoulder. We're trending again. Define trending, Emma said, but she knew. It meant they were public property for another news cycle. By noon, the campus had turned curious. Film students whispered in corners. Professors pretended not to stare when the twins walked into class. Someone had printed the Variety headline and taped it to a notice board. Channing twins, from Olympics to auteur cinema. Kayla laughed when she saw it. Guess we skipped the awkward phase. Emma pulled it down before anyone else could. Let's not make it a shrine. Classes blurred by. By afternoon, Promise PR had confirmed a small press event for Friday night. A single livestream Q&A hosted from Pacific View. Minimal exposure, maximal control. Dad's fingerprints were all over the plan. When they got home, the living room had already become a set. Soft lights, camera rigs, a neutral backdrop in Promise gray. Sarah Keene was there, smiling behind her lens. Figured I'd get ahead of you, she said. Less chaos tomorrow. Mom, barefoot and glowing in that near-term way that mixed fatigue with calm authority, appeared from the kitchen. Try to finish before sunset. I want dinner at a normal hour. Sarah winked. Copy that, boss. The live stream went smooth. Kayla handled the warmth. Emma handled the precision. They spoke about creative freedom, teamwork, the future of immersive art. No one mentioned money, competition, or how terrifying it was to see their private creation dissected in public. When the stream ended, applause echoed faintly from the tech crew. Sarah lowered her camera. Perfect. Clean, authentic, exactly what they needed. Dad checked his watch. Server traffic's climbing. Promise portals holding pretty steady. Outside, the sky had turned the color of burnished copper. The ocean beyond the terrace shimmered strangely smooth, reflective, too still for evening wind. Emma stepped closer to the window. You see that? She asked quietly. Kayla joined her. The water didn't move so much as breathe, rising and falling in long, slow pulses that felt almost deliberate. A static charge lifted the tiny hairs on Emma's arms. Sarah glanced up from her equipment. Storm coming? Dad looked out, frowning. Forecast says clear. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the light shifted back. Normal waves, normal air. The world exhaled as if nothing had happened. Kayla whispered, that was weird. Just the reflection, Emma said, though her voice didn't sound convinced. The system hummed faintly inside her awareness, a single line of text she didn't say aloud. Environmental anomaly recorded. Probability of fog cycle starting. 0.3%. She dismissed it. Too early. Too small to matter. Mom's voice broke the tension. Dinner's ready. And nobody mentioned work at the table. Kayla grinned, relief quick and bright. Yes, ma'am. They filed into the dining room, the smell of roasted vegetables and lemon cutting through the electronic haze. Outside, the horizon gleamed one last moment before dark, like a mirror catching its first crack of light. By morning the shimmer was old news, except it wasn't. Los Angeles looked normal from the outside, yet everything carried a faint charge, the air tasting faintly of ozone even under a clear sky. Emma noticed it first in sound. Power lines hummed a half note lower than usual. Radios caught ghost stations that vanished mid-song. Not loud, not frightening, just off. She mentioned it over breakfast. Do you hear that buzz? Kayla yawned into her cereal. That's the city talking to itself. Dad looked up from his tablet. Probably substation load balancing. Promise has a project downtown drawing a lot of current. Mom smiled, moving carefully around the counter, one hand on her belly. Translation. Science, not spirits. Emma nodded, but the explanation didn't settle. The hum stayed, tucked under everything like a heartbeat the world had forgotten it had. On campus, screens flickered. The big LED marquee outside the arts building glitched mid-announcement, flashing welcome new S, before resolving again. Kayla raised an eyebrow. Even tech needs drama. During film lab, an entire row of monitors blinked in perfect sync. The professor blamed power surges, the students blamed ghosts, Kayla blamed caffeine withdrawal. Emma just watched the pattern: 3 flashes, pause, 2 flashes, pause. Too deliberate to be random, too symmetrical to be chance. When she reached out, the static tickled her fingers. For a heartbeat she thought she saw the reflection of her own eyes in the dark screen. 2 lights inside 2 lights. Then it was gone. That evening the house felt heavier, though the air conditioning whispered its usual rhythm. Mom had gone to bed early, exhaustion finally catching up. Dad worked in his office, voice low through the half-closed door. The twins sprawled in the living room, homework scattered between them. Kayla plucked at her guitar strings, building melodies out of nothing. "Remember how the ocean looked yesterday?" Emma asked. Kayla strummed a minor chord. "Like it forgot how to behave?" "Yeah. Probably atmospheric pressure. Heat inversion." Emma shook her head. "Or alignment." Kayla glanced up. "System talk?" "No," Emma said quietly. "Instinct." They both fell silent, listening. Outside, the waves rolled steady, but the sound carried faint static, like applause through an old speaker. Later, when the house finally slept, Emma sat on the terrace with her notebook. She started drawing lines, tide patterns, flicker intervals, small notes of temperature. Nothing scientific, just observation. The system stayed quiet until she looked straight at the sea. Then a whisper surfaced, measured and calm. "Ambient resonance fluctuation. Negligible. Cuz. Pending global synchronization event." She stared at the words until they faded. "Pending what?" she whispered, but the system had already gone still again. Behind her, the sliding door opened softly. Kayla padded out barefoot, hair tangled from sleep. "You're doing the thing again." "What thing?" "The notebook thing. The world's still here. You can stop measuring it for one night." Emma closed the cover. "Habit." Kayla sat beside her, curling into the chair's edge. "You know what I think? The world's just getting ready. Like Mom." Emma smiled at that, small and true. "You might be right." Kayla leaned her head against her sister's shoulder. "I'm always right eventually." The ocean answered with a low electric sigh. Far out, lightning flickered without thunder. Silent veins of light threading the clouds, too distant to hear, too close to ignore. Emma watched it a long time, until even the static seemed to settle into rhythm. Whatever was coming, it wasn't here yet. But it was close enough for the world to start practicing. By Thursday the hum had deepened into a pulse. It was small at first, a low throb under city noise, too slow to be power, too even to be traffic. In class, Emma felt it through the floor. During rehearsal, through the stage. At night, through her bones. The soundless rhythm seemed to follow her everywhere. Kayla noticed the glitches before she did. Her phone camera froze mid-recording, the preview flickering like film melting in heat. "That's new," she said, shaking it. "I think the city's allergic to us." "Then stop filming everything," Emma said without looking up from her notes. "I was filming the sunset." "Exactly my point." Kayla stuck out her tongue. "You're just mad it didn't ask for lighting approval." Emma rolled her eyes, but the banter steadied her. The world still made sense if Kayla was laughing. At home, Mom moved slower now. She had reached the stage where sitting down looked like an art form and standing back up a small miracle. Dad stayed close, half guard, half worrier, pretending not to be either. The twins learned to navigate around him quietly, like dancers moving through invisible choreography. One night after dinner, lightning flickered again, far off over the water. No storm warnings, no clouds, just light threading the sky in delicate lines. Mom noticed it first. "Beautiful," she said softly. "Like the world's breathing light." Dad frowned. "That's not lightning. Too high. Maybe satellite refraction." "Maybe," Mom said, though her tone held wonder, not worry. Kayla caught Emma's eye, silent question. Emma shook her head. "Later." Later meant after midnight. The house asleep, the ocean silver with moonlight. Emma slipped out onto the terrace, notebook under one arm. She drew the horizon line again, marking the coordinates of the flickers. Every night they came earlier. Every night they aligned closer to shore. When she looked up, the air itself seemed thicker, like it was holding its breath. The hum returned, low, steady, deeper now, almost melodic. The system stirred, quiet but present. Anomaly index, 0.8%. Pattern recognized. No threat detected. Emma frowned. Then why are you awake? No answer. Just the faint vibration in her palms, the sense of something vast and patient beneath everything. The terrace door opened softly. Kayla again, wrapped in a blanket this time. You and that notebook are in a serious relationship. Emma smiled without looking away from the horizon. It listens better than most people. Kayla joined her at the railing. You think it's connected to us? It's too regular not to be. Like calibration, the world tuning itself. I'm guessing, but I'm going to say pre-scan testing or some other thing. Kayla leaned over the rail, the wind catching her hair. Then maybe it's tuning for the new Channing. Emma blinked at her. You think? She's due any day. You said it yourself. Everything's aligning. Emma let the idea settle. A family resonance. New life syncing with old forces. It sounded like something the system might record in silence. Maybe, she said finally. Maybe that's all it is. At 3 in the morning, the power went out. Just a flicker, one heartbeat of darkness, and then everything came back brighter, sharper. The clocks had all reset to 0-100. Emma stared at the numbers, pulse matching them beat for beat. Kayla's voice came from the hallway. You awake? Yeah. Everything okay? Just the lights, Emma said, though she wasn't sure that was true. She glanced toward the window. The horizon glowed again, a thin silver seam where sea met sky. The first whisper of the fog cycle, still distant, still harmless, but real. The system pulsed once, acknowledging. Synchronization event pending. Awaiting host directive. Emma whispered into the dark, not yet. And the world, obedient as ever, went still. The storm warnings started the way all modern myths did, on social media. Clips of lights over the Pacific. Weather satellites catching phantom cloud rings that didn't match any model. Fishermen posting videos of compasses spinning lazy circles. By Friday, every news anchor called it a magnetic anomaly, and every scientist said temporary. Emma didn't argue out loud, but she started marking time. She filled a whiteboard in the study with quiet, precise notes. Dates, times, flicker intervals, air pressure dips. The pattern repeated every 36 hours, tightening with each cycle. Whatever the world was tuning for, the tempo was quickening. Kayla walked in halfway through a new column. You're turning the living room into NASA again. Correlation, not obsession, Emma said, jotting a number. Still looks like obsession from here. Emma set down the marker. Then help me prove it isn't. Kayla studied the board. Every 36 hours? Within 10 minutes. The pulse is global now. Promises sensors picked it up in Tokyo and Berlin. Kayla frowned. Does Dad know? Of course. He told me not to tell Mom. Kayla crossed her arms. She's going to notice eventually. She already has. She just calls it weather. They both laughed softly, because pretending normal still worked. That evening, Mom insisted on family dinner despite the fatigue. She moved slowly but smiled often, sleeves rolled up, the smell of herbs and garlic turning the house into something invincible. Dad handled the dishes, the twins set the table. The ocean outside was glass again, reflecting a sunset too red to trust. Mom caught Emma watching the horizon. Still taking notes in your head? Always, Emma said. Good. The world's worth noticing, even when it misbehaves. Kayla grinned. She'd notice the apocalypse and call it field research. Occupational hazard, Emma replied. They laughed, and for a moment the air felt normal again. The first blackout came just before midnight. Lights flickered once, off, on, and every device in the house chimed the same soft tone, a perfect note that vibrated through the floor. The sound didn't hurt, it harmonized, like the planet tuning its strings. Kayla sat up in bed. That was not a power fluctuation. Emma was already checking the windows. Streetlights had dimmed to amber. The horizon glowed faintly silver again, but higher this time, as if the sea itself had learned to breathe light. Dad appeared in the doorway, calm and fully awake. Backup systems are fine. Grid blipped for 7 seconds. Mom's voice floated from down the hall. 7 seconds feels longer when you're awake. Everyone back to bed, Dad said. No drama. Sure, Kayla muttered, no drama while the ocean practices photosynthesis. Emma met her eyes. You heard it too? The tone? Hard to miss. Then it's not just me. At 3 a.m., the system whispered again, polite and factual. Planetary resonance increasing. Forecast synchronization. T-144 hours. 6 days. Emma sat up, heart beating fast. Define synchronization. World alignment protocol. Atmospheric pre-phase initiating. No directive required. She closed her eyes. No directive, meaning it would happen whether anyone acted or not. From the next bed, Kayla's sleepy voice drifted through the dark. You talking to yourself again? Just writing notes, Emma said automatically. Kayla rolled over. Good. Someone has to keep the minutes. Emma watched her sister's breathing slowly, even and sure. The hum in the walls matched it for a while, then faded. The house settled. She opened her notebook and wrote a single line beneath the new date. Whatever's coming, the world stopped pretending it isn't. Outside, the ocean pulsed once more, light over dark, breath over silence, then stilled, waiting for its cue. 49, the last week. T-6 days. Monday began too quietly. The city moved like it was half awake, traffic slower, sky too clear, air heavy with that faint metallic taste that meant the storm wasn't weather at all. Emma felt it humming through the soles of her shoes as she crossed the quad. She wrote the number 6 in the corner of her notebook before class. A reminder, a countdown, a promise. Kayla slid into the seat beside her, breathless from a sprint and utterly unbothered. Campus radio says last night's lights were auroras. Over the Pacific. At this latitude, she raised an eyebrow. You buying that? Emma didn't look up. I'm buying the part where people need explanations. Optimist. Realist, Emma said, then added, softer, 6 days. Kayla's grin dimmed. Right. 6. Classes continued as if the world hadn't started keeping its own time. The projector stuttered twice during directing too, and everyone laughed except Emma. The flicker rhythm matched her notes exactly. 3 beats, pause, 2 beats. The pulse. It was everywhere now, hidden in fluorescent buzz, computer fans, even the syncopation of rain against the glass when a stray shower rolled over campus. Between lectures, her phone vibrated with promise alerts. Sensor updates, satellite drift data, internal memos about pre-cycle electromagnetic deviations. Nothing public yet. The company line remains steady, monitoring irregularities, no threat detected. At lunch, Kayla asked, You told Dad? He's already rerouting shipments. Promised Tokyo's on emergency timeline. So he knows. He knows enough. Kayla stabbed at her salad. You ever wish we didn't? Emma met her gaze. All the time. By evening, home felt different again. The air carried static, the house lights hummed faintly even when switched off. Mom was curled on the couch, a pillow behind her back, a soft blanket over her legs. She looked tired but calm, fingers tracing lazy circles on her stomach. How was class? She asked. Predictably chaotic, Kayla said. Half the projectors think they're haunted. Mom smiled. Maybe they just need rest. Dad came in from the office, phone pressed to his ear. No, full distribution before Friday. If the network's unstable, we finish now. He hung up, rubbed his temples, and managed a weary grin. Promised Tokyo's loading the last batch of quantum nodes tonight. Once they're live, every major hub's covered. Emma's pulse steadied a little. That's all of them? Enough, he said. We can't reach everyone, but it'll keep the world talking when the satellites drop. Mom squeezed his hand. You're saving more than most ever get to. Kayla lifted her glass. To anchors and storms. They clinked water, not wine, but the sound was still ceremony. That night Emma lay awake, staring at the faint glow of her clock. Each minute felt heavier than the one before. The hum beneath the world had turned rhythmic, like breathing, like preparation. She whispered, "System, confirm countdown. Synchronization protocol active. Estimated convergence, 134 hours. Define convergence. Dimensional alignment threshold. Atmospheric transition imminent." Emma exhaled slowly. No panic, no surprise. Only inevitability. System? Yes. Host? Did we do the right thing? Define right. Did we steal money? Yes. Did we appropriate other people's work? Also yes. Did we kill people? Indirectly, yes. Did we save people? Yes, in far greater numbers. If right equates to the betterment of humanity and the preservation of your species, then yes, absolutely. Most of the world will live this time, host. Some in the galaxy will be displeased when they try us. Emma smirked, eyes half-lidded in the glow of the monitor. That's good, she said softly. That's good. Across the room, Kayla murmured in her sleep, as if answering an unspoken question. Not yet, wait for us. Emma smiled faintly. Even unconscious, her sister negotiated with destiny. She closed her eyes and listened, to the hum, to Kayla's breathing, to the city holding its breath. The world was practicing again, and this time, the tempo was unmistakable. By Tuesday morning, the hum had crept into her dreams. Even when she woke, it followed her, a vibration under skin and thought, like the world was running diagnostics in the background. Emma sat at her desk before sunrise, eyes on the hollow map glowing above her tablet. Promise's global network spread across the planet in soft blue arcs, each point a node, each line a link. 1,000 small lights, the heartbeat of an empire disguised as infrastructure. Every node flickered green except 3. Tokyo, Johannesburg, Sao Paulo. She zoomed in. "Why aren't you updating?" she whispered. The system answered softly, "Neutral. Quantum chip shipment delay. Estimated completion. 32 hours. Emma exhaled through her teeth. That's too long. Too damn close. Weather interference. Tropical convergence. Flights rerouted. Find another route. Human logistics require authorization. She rubbed her forehead. Human logistics. Code for you can't push this without Dad noticing. Kayla's reflection appeared in the window, hair messy, holding 2 mugs of coffee. You're already working? I never stopped, Emma said, not looking away from the map. Anything broken? Not broken. Delayed. Kayla leaned against the desk. Tokyo's ours. Weather will clear. 2 days of delay is 1 day of risk. Kayla sipped her coffee, studying her sister. You can't make the rain move faster. Emma almost smiled. Watch me. At breakfast, Mom was still half asleep but alert enough to notice the tension. Do I want to know what's on that screen? She asked. Just logistics, Emma said quickly. Mom raised an eyebrow. The kind that makes you mutter at 6 in the morning? Kayla laughed. She's stress flirting with quantum servers. Gross, Emma said, and Kayla grinned into her toast. Dad entered mid-call, headset glowing. Yes, reroute the components through Seoul. Charter if you have to. Promise priority code. He ended the call, saw Emma's expression, and gave a small nod. Handled. Weather, not people. Relief slid through her chest before she could hide it. Thanks, Dad. Dad looked between them, bemused. You built this whole thing. I just pushed the paperwork. Kayla shot Emma a look that said see? Emma ignored it and checked the holo again. 3 red lights turned amber, then green. For the first time in hours, her shoulders dropped. At campus, classes blurred. She barely remembered her acting seminar, only the way the lighting hummed louder than usual. Her phone vibrated non-stop, promise messages, sensor readouts, regional power reports. She replied between lectures with the efficiency of an air traffic controller. By late afternoon, she stepped outside into sunlight too bright to be real. The air smelled of iron again. Students talked about auroras and camera glitches. No one called it what it was. Her watch pinged. Quantum rollout, 100% global integration achieved. Emma froze, reread, then smiled for the first time all week. The network was whole. Whatever the world was about to become, its spine was ready. That evening, she stood on the terrace while the wind rolled in off the sea. Kayla joined her with 2 bowls of noodles. All done? For now. Good, Kayla said, handing over chopsticks. Then eat before Mom sees you faint. Emma took the bowl, steam rising between them. Tokyo went live. Told you. Rain always stops eventually. Emma nodded, looking past her sister at the horizon. It had been different for her last time. EJ had been in college then, oblivious, grieving a breakup instead of watching the sky rewrite itself. What was her name again? The thought slipped away before she could catch it, a name eroded by time and mercy. She didn't ask the system to remind her. Some ghosts were better unarchived. Lightning shimmered behind the clouds, silent and intricate, like circuitry glowing through the sky. Kayla followed her gaze. Think it'll hold? It has to, Emma said. The world's about to lean on it. They ate in silence, the surf below whispering against the pilings. Somewhere under the noise of the city, the promise net thrummed, alive, synchronized, waiting for its cue. By Wednesday the sky had learned new colors. Pale green at sunrise, violet at dusk, and a thin silver band that never left the horizon. The city kept moving anyway, buses still ran, students still crossed the quad, but everything hummed a fraction out of tune. Even laughter had an echo now. Emma walked through campus like a ghost inside her own life. The system's last words wouldn't leave her. Most of the world will live. She tried to make that enough. In the sound lab, Kayla sat cross-legged on the floor surrounded by cables and coffee cups, mixing tracks for an assignment she didn't care about. I keep hearing static in everything, she said. Even when I shut the equipment off. It's not you, Emma answered. It's the air. Kayla tilted her head. That's supposed to be comforting? No, just accurate. At home that afternoon, the tension had turned domestic. Mom was folding baby clothes on the couch, a faint wince each time she bent forward. She smiled through it, pretending nothing hurt. You're supposed to rest, Emma said. I'm nesting, Mom replied. It's biological treason if I don't. Dad looked up from his laptop. Hospital's on standby just in case. Kayla carried in a basket of laundry. Standby for what? World ending or baby arriving? Both, Dad said dryly. Whichever shows up first. Mom laughed, the sound gentler than the light outside. You make it sound like a competition. Emma smiled faintly. It kind of is. That evening the Promise Board called another emergency briefing. Data centers worldwide were reporting electrical phase drift, equipment running too hot, too cold, sometimes both. Nothing catastrophic yet, but technicians couldn't explain it. Quantum interference? One executive asked. Atmospheric harmonics, Emma corrected. The network's sinking faster than predicted. Meaning? Meaning stay calm and let it finish. She ended the call before anyone could ask for details. Kayla leaned in the doorway behind her. You're getting good at corporate bluffing. I'm getting good at translation. Between what and what? Between panic and purpose. Kayla chuckled, but it sounded hollow. We should patent that. After midnight, the wind shifted. Static crawled along the windows, flickering faintly blue. Emma watched the glass tremble, then steadied herself and whispered, System, status. Synchronization protocol. T-96 hours. Atmospheric pressure variance nominal. Collective connection sequence initializing. Initialization already? Affirmative. Environmental integrity within tolerance. Define tolerance. 82% survival probability for surface biosphere. Her stomach tightened. That's lower than yesterday. Variables increasing. Kayla's sleepy voice drifted from the bed. You're arguing with the universe again? Emma looked back, half-smile faint. Someone has to keep it honest. Tell it to wait till after Mom's delivery, Kayla murmured, then rolled over. Within minutes she was breathing evenly again. Emma turned toward the window. Outside, lightning webbed the horizon without sound, each pulse timed perfectly to the second hand on her clock. The world wasn't falling apart, it was organizing. Near dawn, she scribbled a line in her notebook. 4 days. Everything humming in key, even fear. The system stayed silent this time, as if agreeing. Down the hall, Mom's voice carried faintly, half a groan, half surprise, and Dad's hurried footsteps followed. Emma froze, heart jolting once before instinct took over. She ran. At the bedroom door, Kayla nearly collided with her, eyes wide and awake. "Early," she said. Emma nodded. "Of course it is." Behind them, the house lights flickered once, synchronizing perfectly with the thunderless flash outside. The world counted with them now, every heartbeat, every breath, 4 days left on the clock. By the time they reached the hospital, the city lights were dimming and flaring like a heartbeat. Traffic moved in fits and starts, power lines hummed high enough to make teeth ache. Inside the car, no one spoke. The silence wasn't fear, it was focus. Everyone moving in the rhythm of necessity. Mom was calm. Too calm, Emma thought, but maybe that was strength in disguise. Her hand stayed wrapped around Dad's, eyes half closed, breath measured. Kayla kept checking the clock even though there was no point. The system's voice pulsed in the back of Emma's mind, counting softly. Synchronization. 92 hours. They made it in 20 minutes. Promise's private wing had backup power and its own emergency generators. Dad insisted months ago. Now it felt like prophecy. The doctors moved quickly. Mom's contractions were strong, regular. The baby wasn't waiting for anyone's convenience. Dad stayed close to her side, one hand on her shoulder, his usual composure cracked just enough to be human. Kayla paced like a caged thing, muttering, "He better be cute after all this." Emma stood near the window, watching lightning bloom silently over the city. Each flash lit the room like a camera shutter, the glow catching the edges of machines and faces. The storm wasn't weather anymore, it was something deeper, the planet's pulse syncing with a smaller one inside these walls. Environmental resonance detected, the system whispered. Life signature compatible. New node forming. Emma blinked. Node? She whispered back. Affirmative. Family resonance expanding. She smiled despite herself. Welcome to the network, little brother. The next contraction stole the air from the room. Mom gasped once, focused, and bore down. A nurse shouted something about timing. The doctor's voice stayed steady, almost there. One more, Patricia, good, good. And then it happened. A single cry cut through the hum, sharp and perfect, the most ordinary miracle in the universe. Everything stopped then. Even the static outside paused, as if the world listened. Kayla laughed first, half sob, half wonder. Dad covered his face with one hand, relief shaking through his shoulders. Mom just smiled, eyes bright, whispering, "Hi there, James Ethan." Emma felt the words settle somewhere deep. The hum in the walls softened, the lights steadied. For the first time in days, the air tasted like air again. When the nurses cleared the room, the family circled around the small bundle in Mom's arms. He was impossibly small, a warm spark of life wrapped in hospital white. Kayla leaned close. "He looks like he's thinking already." "Poor kid," Emma said softly. "Means he's one of us." Mom laughed weakly. "He's perfect. And early." Dad nodded, still half in disbelief. He waited until everything was ready. Good timing. Emma touched the baby's tiny hand. His fingers curled instinctively around hers. A jolt, not pain, not fear, just warmth, passed through her skin. The system whispered again. Resonance stabilized. New harmonic baseline established. Family equilibrium optimal. She swallowed hard. "Yeah," she whispered. "I feel that." Kayla looked at her. "You okay?" "Better than okay." Outside, dawn bled slowly into the horizon. The clouds glowed pale silver, the first light touching the hospital windows. The world was still humming, still preparing, but softer now, almost reverent. Emma stood by the glass, watching the sun edge upward. In her reflection she saw herself, Kayla, and their parents, the whole family framed in that fragile calm. The system stayed silent, letting the moment belong entirely to them. Behind her, Mom whispered to the baby, "Welcome home, James." And outside, as if the earth itself approved, the wind shifted, carrying the faintest scent of rain, new, clean, alive. The hospital released them 2 days later, just after sunrise. Mom moved carefully, holding James against her chest, his small breaths lost beneath the hum of the elevator. Kayla carried the flowers and the discharge papers. Dad handled logistics, phone in one hand, protective gravity in the other. Emma walked behind them, eyes flicking from her family to the windows. The world outside shimmered faintly, colors off by half a tone, airbending the light in a way no lens could explain. Synchronization. 72 hours. She ignored it. Today was about going home. At Pacific View, the house had never felt so alive as it did today. Sunlight spilled through the open doors, the sea calm and glassy again, as if it understood the need for peace. Mom settled on the couch with James, humming softly. Dad disappeared into the kitchen to find food everyone would pretend to eat. Kayla flopped onto the rug. He's so quiet. Give him time, Mom said. He's observing. Like someone else we know, Kayla murmured, glancing at Emma. Emma smiled, half absent, already opening her tablet. Notifications stacked like dominoes. Promise HQ sending telemetry. Tokyo confirming field resonance readings. Berlin requesting final rollout metrics. Dad returned with coffee. Work can wait. She looked up. It won't. It can, he said firmly. Your brother just rewrote our schedule. Kayla grinned. Finally, a real boss in the family. Mom laughed, eyes closing for a moment, exhaustion catching up. The baby slept, tiny hand curled against her collarbone. For one heartbeat, time felt still. That afternoon, while everyone napped, Emma walked the terrace. The ocean was darker than it should have been, deep metallic blue, veins of light moving under the surface like current through glass. The wind carried static. She called quietly, "System?" "Yes, host?" "Why does it look different?" Dimensional harmonics approaching the final threshold. Atmospheric density increasing. Meaning? Space-time refracting light frequencies. Harmless until convergence. Define harmless. 91% probability of structural stability. Emma sighed. So, only mildly terrifying. Statistically manageable. Comforting, she muttered. She turned her gaze inland. The city skyline shimmered, each building leaning a fraction closer together, then correcting. She blinked hard, gone. Like the world had hiccuped. Inside, Kayla stood at the window with a baby bottle in one hand. You saw that, right? Emma nodded. Not imagination. Oh good, I'm not insane then. Good to know. Promise net's going crazy. Every node reporting latency spikes. Keep them online. Kayla smirked. You sound like Dad. Emma's smile faltered. He keeps the lights on. We keep the world on. Kayla fed James, watching him blink sleepily. Think he'll remember any of this? He won't have to, Emma said. He'll grow up in the world that comes after. That evening, Promise HQ sent the first anomaly memo. It read like a weather report from another dimension. Time distortion windows, localized. 2 to 3 seconds lost during network synchronization. No packet loss reported. Emma stared at the line. Seconds missing. Time learning to breathe differently. She forwarded it to Dad, then deleted it before Mom could see. Outside, the sky turned copper again. The silver band on the horizon widened, no longer a line but a moving veil, thickening with light. Kayla stood beside her on the terrace, the baby monitor glowing faintly in her hand. It's getting louder. Emma listened. The hum had changed pitch, no longer background noise but a heartbeat. Slow. Patient. Counting down. How long?
Kayla asked. 2.5 days.
Kayla looked back at the house, at the small shape sleeping inside. Then let's make them good ones. Emma nodded. The best.
When the night came, it came without stars. The silver veil stretched higher, swallowing constellations one by one.
The ocean's surface mirrored the glow, calm as glass, waiting. Emma wrote a single line before bed. The world's heartbeats are numbered now, but at least they're steady. The system said nothing. Somewhere far below, Promise Net pulsed like a second ocean, keeping time for the planet itself. Friday morning broke bright and cold, the light too sharp to belong to summer. Emma woke before her alarm, the silence in the house rang in its precision. No gulls, no traffic, no wind. Only the faint hum, steady as a pulse. She slipped from bed and crossed to the terrace. The ocean was a mirror again, a single sheet of glass stretching into fog. Not weather, not light, something else. Her watch buzzed with promise alerts before she could even speak. Kayla stumbled out behind her, hair wild, holding James's baby monitor. Tell me I'm dreaming. Emma looked at the horizon. You're awake. A thin line of light had appeared where sea met sky, bending upward, widening. It shimmered like heat haze, but within it something moved, geometry folding and unfolding in silence. The first rift. Her phone vibrated again. Promise alert. Offshore anomaly detected.
Stability rating, 82%. Recommend observational lockdown. She opened a secure line. System, confirm anomaly parameters. Spatial discontinuity confirmed.
Dimensional bleed minimal, better than historical parameters. The collective's frequency alignment is increasing. Can it reach land? Negative. Energy contained within atmospheric layer. Kayla's voice cut through the hum. Promise HQ's on the line. Sarah says every feed just glitched out except ours. Emma nodded. Our nodes are closer. They're acting as stabilizers. Kayla swallowed. Meaning? Meaning we hold the line. By mid-morning, the world had noticed. News drones hovered over the coast, catching only static. Networks froze on frames of impossible light.
Social media bloomed with panic and awe.
Hashtag Sea Halo trended within an hour.
Emma remembered seeing that one from the other timeline. Mom watched from the couch, James asleep in her arms. It's beautiful, she whispered. Like a doorway. Dad stood by the window, jaw tight. Or a storm. Emma kept her voice calm. Promise containment fields are live. The network's absorbing the excess energy. Kayla blinked at her tablet.
Absorbing? You mean drinking it? Redirecting, Emma corrected. Promise Net was built for this. Dad looked at her, the realization dawning that his daughters were saying more than science allowed. You knew. Emma met his eyes. We prepared. He didn't ask how. Not yet. Outside, the rift widened to a full arc, spanning miles of sea, light bending through it like rainbows in oil. The air thrummed, low and alive, rattling windows. Power grids across the coast flickered. Phones not made by Promise went dark. Kayla gripped the railing. Is this it? The fall? Emma shook her head. Only the rehearsal's over. The performance just started. Lightning stitched the fog, illuminating the arc. For an instant she saw shapes moving inside, reflections, echoes, other versions of waves. The collective's edge brushing Earth's atmosphere. Synchronization. 48 hours. Collective link establishing. Will you be safe? Unknown. Emma closed her eyes and whispered, hold steady. Affirmative. Promise net maintaining structural coherence. Node integrity, 99%. By evening, emergency broadcasts urged citizens to stay indoors. The air shimmered even in shadows, small sparks glinting like dust. Promise servers handled the overflow, their hum audible through the walls. The twins sat in the living room, laptops open, eyes darting between readouts. Kayla muttered, if this were a movie, this is where the soundtrack would go quiet. Then be glad it's real, Emma said softly. We need the silence. On the couch, Mom stirred, whispering to James, it's okay, sweetheart. The girls have it. Emma heard it and felt something anchor inside her, faith, undeserved but welcome. The system's voice returned, calm, unhurried. Host protocols confirmed. Collective interface ready. Awaiting synchronization order. Emma closed her eyes. Not yet. Let them sleep. Outside, the rift pulsed once, silver, then blue, before fading back into fog. The horizon dimmed, as if the sea had taken a breath and chosen to wait. The hum continued, deeper now, almost tender. 48 hours left. The world was learning its new rhythm, and for the first time, Emma didn't fight it. She listened. 50, the last light. Morning rose in silence. No gulls, no surf, not even the low hum of the city beyond the hills. The world had paused between breaths. Emma stood on the terrace, coffee untouched in her hand, the air thick with that faint metallic taste again. Across the horizon, the fog band glowed silver white, no longer a haze but a sheet, shimmering like fabric drawn across the sky. Synchronization in progress. Phase 1. Atmospheric alignment. The system's voice was so calm it sounded like prayer. Emma nodded once, eyes never leaving the horizon. Behind her, the house stirred. Kayla padded out barefoot, hair tangled, clutching the baby monitor. Tell me it's not starting yet. It already has, Emma said softly. They watched in silence as light rippled outward from the sea, a wave that moved faster than wind but slower than thought. The fog didn't advance, it expanded, fractal patterns blooming across the air like frost on glass. Inside, the news anchors tried to make sense of it. Words like ionization front and solar curtain crawled across screens, each theory falling apart within minutes. Promise servers held steady, their hum a heartbeat beneath the floor. Dad moved through the house like a storm contained, phone pressed to his ear, issuing calm orders. Keep the backup grids isolated. If the satellites blink again, we stay local. Promise network only. Mom sat near the window, James asleep against her shoulder. The light from the horizon painted her face silver. It's beautiful, she whispered. Emma smiled faintly. It's everything. By mid-morning, the first synchronization wave hit. Power surged, then stabilized. Every Promise device on Earth chimed once. 2 clear notes, harmonic, unplanned. Screens flickered and filled with a symbol Emma had never coded. A perfect circle woven from 7 interlocking arcs. Collective interface initializing. Kayla's voice was barely a breath. That's new. Emma felt the resonance through the floor, the same way she used to feel water pressure before a dive. Deep, vast, inevitable. It's the collective handshake. The network's answering back. Acknowledged. World node recognized. The words formed in her mind like light behind eyelids. Outside, birds began flying in strange spirals, their wings catching glints of impossible color. The ocean turned glass still. For a heartbeat, the reflection of the sky looked deeper than the real one. Emma reached out, fingers brushing the terrace rail. System, status. Promise net stable. Quantum lattice at full capacity. Human network synchronization, 42% and rising. Kayla stepped closer. What happens when it reaches 100? Nothing we can stop, Emma said. And everything we built starts working the way it was always meant to, beyond human control. Kayla gave a soft laugh. Promise we'll take a dive on the markets. Emma snorted. The entire world will. Promise we'll survive. We designed every line of it for this. Its tech is the only high-tech infrastructure the collective can use without tearing it apart. It'll work, That's all that matters when everything else fails. The second wave hit just after noon. A low, sonorous tone rolled through the atmosphere, felt, not heard. Windows vibrated. Distant car alarms flickered once and died. The air smelled faintly of ozone and salt. Mom looked up, eyes wide but calm. Feels like the ocean's in the sky. Dad checked his watch, then put it away. We stay home. Doors locked. Promise net only. My guys are with us. Kayla leaned against Emma's shoulder. 2 days, she said. Then what? Emma's voice was steady. Then we find out if the world learned the rhythm right. Synchronization Phase 2 scheduled in 23 hours. The fog brightened, washing the sea in colorless light. For a moment it seemed to pulse with the same cadence as their hearts. Emma closed her eyes. Hold it steady. Affirmative. The hum returned, lower, warmer, patient. The world had begun to move again, but now it moved in time. By afternoon the sky had turned white. Not cloud, not glare. Just white, a perfect diffusion of light that erased shadow. The air carried the tang of ozone and something softer, almost sweet, like rain on stone. The world had lost its edges. Emma watched from the terrace. Cars had stopped on the coastal highway below. People stood outside them, heads tilted toward the sea. No one moved. The fog was still miles offshore, but its presence had become soundless gravity, drawing every eye. Synchronization, 49%. The system's voice was quieter than usual, reverent. Emma breathed once, steadying herself. How long until full phase? 39 hours. She nodded. Kayla? Her sister emerged from the doorway, hoodie half-zipped, phone buzzing with promise alerts she didn't bother reading. Tokyo's gone dark, she said. Not offline, just quiet. The nodes are humming, but no signal delay. Emma frowned. That's impossible. Kayla held out the phone. Tell that to physics. They went inside. The house lights pulsed once, synchronized, then dimmed to half power. On every promise device, a new message appeared. Final calibration required. Unspent potential detected. Allocate or forfeit. Kayla stared at it. That's us, right? Emma nodded. System, confirm prompt origin. Directive internal. Synchronization requires definition of stored potential. Undefined data will destabilize the host's resonance. Kayla translated under her breath. Spend your points or lose them. Exactly. They sat at the kitchen table, the glow from their devices washing the room in silver light. Outside, the wind had stopped entirely. Even the sea seemed to hold its breath. Emma stared at the readout, jaw tight. We've been brains and spirit for years, she said quietly. If the world's about to reset, we need a body that can keep up. Kayla nodded. Then all of it. Every point into body. The interface flared open, 3 columns of light labeled strength, agility, and fitness. Numbers scrolled upward as she spoke. 4 to strength, Emma decided. We need drive off the wall and lift on the platform. 5 to agility, Kayla added. Form, balance, recovery. 13 to fitness, Emma finished. Endurance, breath control, and energy storage. Swimmer's lungs. Diver's precision. No weakness allowed. Confirm allocation? Yes. Light cascaded through them like warm current. Bones lengthened fractionally, joints aligning with mathematical precision. Muscle fibers rewove themselves into clean, symmetrical lines. Dense where power was needed, light where speed ruled. Body metrics recalibrated. Height normalization, 1.84 meters. Mass ratio, 15.5% body fat, 47.8% lean muscle. Lung capacity, 7.6 L functional vital volume. Strength plus 4.0, agility plus 5.0, fitness plus 13.0. Resultant performance tier, Olympic human peak. Kayla exhaled sharply, eyes wide. It feels like the water's already listening. Emma flexed her hands, feeling the balance, light, powerful, perfectly tuned. We've spent every point where it matters. This is the best version of us, we're going to need a new wardrobe. Again. Attribute calibration complete. Free points. 0. Physical harmony achieved. Kayla grinned. And the rest of the world's about to see what that means. Proceed to skill alignment. Emma scrolled through the interface. It felt heavier now, as if the system itself was waiting. We finish what we started, she said. All tracks to equilibrium. Kayla leaned over, reading. No combat, no weapons, just creation. You sure that's smart? Emma met her gaze. If the collective's coming, the world will need builders, not soldiers. Kayla nodded slowly. Then give us everything that makes us us. They worked in silence. Points vanished one by one, shifting into color and shape. Writing, music, acting, directing. Business, programming, VR design, integration. Each line glowed briefly, then settled into pale gold. When the last confirmation appeared, the system spoke again, calm, absolute. Allocation complete. Resonance stabilized. Cross-disciplinary integration. Level 3 achieved. Twin synchronization, 100%. Emma exhaled. System, project impact. Enhanced survival probability, plus 12%. Human stabilization output, optimal. Kayla leaned back, eyes half-lidded. 12% doesn't sound like much. It's 12% of a world, Emma said. I'll take it. The fog reached shore at sunset. It rolled over the bay like liquid light, swallowing the horizon. The first fingers of it touched the cliffs below their house, spilling upward, curling along the path like smoke that remembered how to breathe. Every promise node flared once, a soft halo that merged with the incoming glow. The house vibrated, not from sound but from resonance. The system's voice returned, hushed and final. Hosts calibrated, promise net aligned, awaiting full integration. Kayla stood at the window, one hand on the glass. It's beautiful, she said. And terrifying. Emma joined her. It's both. Everything worth surviving usually is. They stayed there until the light reached them, silver mist curling across the terrace, warm as breath. The air shimmered with invisible geometry, every atom finding its rhythm. Emma whispered, hold steady. Affirmative. The hum deepened again, turning almost melodic, an ancient lullaby of creation restarting itself. By dawn the fog had swallowed everything. The terrace, the ocean, even the garden path vanished behind a white wall of light. The horizon no longer existed, the air glowed from every direction. Emma pressed her hand to the window. Warm. The glass pulsed faintly, like it was breathing. Synchronization, 87%. Visual coherence unstable. The system's voice was subdued, like it didn't want to interrupt. Kayla appeared behind her, phone in one hand, blanket around her shoulders. No sunrise. No anything. This is sunrise, Emma said. The lights just everywhere. Outside, the fog rippled. Shapes moved within it, not solid, not quite abstract. Fractals, spirals, loops folding into themselves. At first Emma thought she was imagining them, but the same pattern repeated on the glass, burning faint afterimages into her vision. Kayla whispered, are we supposed to be seeing this? Affirmative, the system answered. Collective interface expanding. Visual overlap unavoidable. Emma blinked hard. Show me scale. A new overlay formed on the glass, lines of light arcing across the curve of the earth. The fog wasn't local anymore. It covered the oceans, brushing continents like a slow tide. Promise net maintaining 98% stability. Global communication limited to promise channels. Kayla stared at the faint diagram. So the whole world is in this now. Emma nodded. Every node, every signal. The collective's reading the planet like a heartbeat. This is the start of the scanning phase. Inside, the hum deepened. Light pooled along the floorboards, tracing circuit-like patterns that pulsed once, twice, then stabilized. Emma felt the vibration under her skin, warm, not electric, almost alive. When she breathed in, the air tasted faintly metallic and sweet, like rain caught in wire. Mom stepped into the doorway, James cradled against her chest. "It's so quiet out there," she whispered.
Like the ocean stopped. "It's listening," Emma said before she could stop herself. The words came out calm, certain. "Everything is." Dad joined them, tablet in hand, the screen showing nothing but static threaded with silver lines. "Every external channel's gone. Only promise feeds left." "Then stay on those," Emma said. "They'll hold." At 9:42, the fog changed again. The white glow thinned to a soft gold, and the air trembled. Emma's vision blurred, the room doubled, tripled, then resolved into layers. She saw the house and something else behind it. Vast columns of light, drifting cities of glass suspended in mist. Whole worlds folded across each other like reflections. Kayla gasped. "I see it," Emma said, voice shaking. Collective interface achieved. Do not resist sensory overlap. The system's voice came through both their minds at once, no longer separate between them. Words became tone, tone became meaning. Emma's knees weakened. She reached out, felt Kayla's hand find hers, fingers locking together automatically. The air between them shimmered. For a heartbeat they weren't in their house anymore. They were inside the light. It wasn't a place so much as a perception, layers of memory, energy, and motion stacked into one impossible view. Through it all ran silver threads linking stars, cities, oceans, minds. Every flicker carried a sense of recognition, as if the universe had just remembered its own name. "Welcome, hosts." Identification confirmed. Dual node, Earth origin. Collective integration commencing. Kayla's voice was a whisper. "They're talking to us." Emma nodded, unable to look away. "No," she said quietly. "They're listening." The light pulsed once, slow and deliberate. For the first time since it began, Emma felt no fear, only awe, like standing at the edge of a vast, living ocean. Synchronization. 94%. The fog outside brightened until the windows became mirrors. The entire planet was deluged in the fog, or rather, what it contained. From the deepest trench in the deepest ocean, to the highest mountain. Everything was drowned in white. Emma saw herself and Kayla reflected in the mirror the windows had become. Two silhouettes framed in gold, hands joined, the world dissolving behind them. Emma's voice was barely a breath. "We hold steady." Affirmative. The hum softened again, folding into the same rhythm as her heartbeat. Then, for the briefest moment, she thought she heard another sound beneath it. A chorus, distant but growing, as if the universe itself had begun to sing.
The world no longer had distance. Every sound folded into one note, every color into one hue of living gold. The fog was light, weightless, endless, without horizon or floor. Emma couldn't tell where her body ended and the air began, but she still felt Kayla's hand. Warm, human, real. Then the voice came. "Natives of Sol 3, do not fear. The translation layer is active." It wasn't sound. It was comprehension blooming behind her eyes, a meaning too large for words, softened to fit their minds. Kayla flinched, then blinked rapidly. Did you hear that? Yes, Emma said quietly. System, confirm source. Source, collective consciousness. Primary node, Sol 3. Host confirmation received. Local systems recognized. Emma drew a slow breath. We're not hallucinating. Hallucination. A primitive construct of the weak-minded. You may speak. Kayla hesitated. What do we even say? Emma met her gaze. We start with truth. She focused inward, the way she'd learned to in training, and thought the words instead of speaking them. We built the promise net to survive the coming change. To help our world withstand synchronization. The answer arrived instantly. Intent acknowledged. Preservation is desirable during synchronization. Reason acceptable. Outcome. Success within projected tolerance. The air vibrated with faint harmonics. Emma's skin tingled, goosebumps chasing up her arms. It's measuring us. We measure everything. You initiated contact earlier than expected. Why? Kayla stepped forward into the light. Because we're human. We always look to the future, with hope, with expectation, even when we don't understand what we're seeing. A pause, long, heavy, yet filled with color and meaning. Curiosity remains a universal constant. The pattern endures. The light shifted, deepening into translucent blues and silvers. Behind it, she saw brief flashes, other worlds, other skies, the faint silhouettes of towers or forests or something vaster than imagination. The collective's memory stretching across eternity. Your civilization approaches a threshold. Continue the pattern or let it decay. Emma steadied her breathing. You mean survival. Survival is the lesser term. Harmony is preferred. Kayla frowned. You're giving us a choice? There is always choice. Continue the pattern or let it decay. Let or follow. All are choices. Emma understood why the system could never rebel. It wasn't designed to command, it was meant to prepare worlds, not rule them. Everything they'd done, the films, Promise Net, VR games and cabins, all the patents and techs released upon an unready world, and then making it ready regardless, even the networks hardened against the impossible, had all been preparation. All within its mandate, if looked at from a certain point of view. Sneaky loyal system. We love you. She lifted her head. If we choose to lead, what happens? Your node will be integrated with AUTOMONY. The collective will learn without native node erasure. Erasure meant losing their current system. That's what Emma and Kayla deduced from that. Nodes were them, and all they'd built. There wasn't much choice, but not choosing was also a choice. And if we follow? Emma thought. Submission. Erasure of self. EFFICIANCY. Loss of distinction. It meant system would roll back to how it had been in the other timeline. Kayla's voice was small but firm. Then we choose to lead. Emma nodded once. We lead. The light swelled, bright enough to turn the world transparent. For an instant she saw their home suspended in radiance. The couch, the baby, their parents frozen in peaceful stillness, the sea a vast mirror of light. Every promise node on Earth pulsed in time with her heartbeat. Directive recorded. Sol 3 designated as autonomous integration. Host resonance fixed. Dual node established. Emma felt a jolt, heat, then stillness. Information cascaded through her mind. Images, equations, entire languages that vanished as quickly as they formed. She gasped, half in awe, half in pain. Kayla staggered under the flood of information, but she caught Emma, anchoring her with touch alone. Balancing complete. Hosts to adapt. Synchronization, 98%. The light dimmed, returning to the soft gold of dawn. Their home slowly came back into focus. The windows, the hum of electricity, the smell of salt and rain. Emma blinked. System, confirm status. Collective integration stabilized. Sol 3 secured. Kayla exhaled, laughing shakily. We just talked to the universe. Emma managed a thin smile. And we negotiated. Outside, the fog pulsed once, silver, then clear, and the first hint of true sunlight cut through. For now, the world was holding on. The hum remained, lower and deeper, the sound of a planet remembering its name and that it was part of a connected universe. Morning returned slowly, like the world was remembering how. Light filtered through the windows, pale gold instead of white. The fog still clung to the sea, but it no longer glowed, it breathed. Every surface in the house held a faint shimmer, like dew that hadn't decided whether it was liquid or light. Emma sat on the terrace steps, a blanket over her shoulders, bare feet against the cool tile. The air was thin but alive. She could feel the hum inside it, quieter now, rhythmic, as if the planet had found its pulse. Synchronization complete. Collective link stable. The system's voice was soft, almost gentle. Kayla joined her, hair tangled, a mug of coffee cradled in both hands. "It's still here," she said. "But different. My copy of system isn't really a copy anymore. It's one half of a dual system." Emma nodded. "That's what dual node means. It kinda always did act that way." "Yeah, but the act was a patch, or a quick fix. Now it's protocol, a new one added to the collective. It will recognize similar bonds in future and won't try to erase it." They watched the horizon. The fog was thinning in slow veils, revealing flashes of ordinary color: green trees, gray cliffs, blue sea. Power lines along the highway flickered back to life one by one, each street lamp pulsing in perfect time. Inside, the house stirred. Mom's voice carried faintly from the living room, tired but happy. James cooed, the tiny sound startling in its normalcy. Dad answered with a laugh that broke the tension the way sunrise breaks night. Emma closed her eyes. They made it. All registered life sign clusters stable within parameters. Global communications reduced to 37%. All satellite systems offline awaiting collective action. Promise net operational at full capacity. Kayla stretched her legs out beside her. "So we really are the last signal standing." "Not the last," Emma said. "The first." They went inside. Every promise screen displayed a single line. Collective Integration Phase 1, complete. Below it, a map of the world glowed with tiny points of light, promise nodes across every continent, still connected, still alive. Everything else was gray. Dad leaned against the doorway, eyes rimmed with fatigue. "Power's back in patches. Military networks are gone. Airports closed." Mom smiled from the couch. "But the lights are on here." Kayla grinned. "Told you we overbuilt it." Emma's smile faded as the weight of it settled. Promise Net isn't part of the group anymore. It's infrastructure now, used and maintained under the collective's control. Dad studied her face, uncertain. "That good or bad?" "Both," she said. "It means a huge loss on the books. Our stock price will fall madly, but then everyone else's will fall worse. It means we did our job." Outside, the wind shifted, the first true breeze in days. It carried the smell of wet earth and ozone, the scent of a planet scrubbed clean. The fog drew back toward the horizon, folding into the sea it had risen from. For the first time since the synchronization began, the sun broke through completely. It wasn't the old sun. Its light felt softer, deeper, each ray split into faint threads of color that shimmered as they moved. Kayla stood in the doorway, the light spilling across her. "Look at it," she whispered. "The sky's breathing." Emma joined her, resting her head lightly on her sister's shoulder. "It's starting over. Collective contact minimal. Host directive complete. Awaiting new parameters." Emma smiled faintly. "Rest. We'll call when we need you." Acknowledged. The system's presence withdrew, not gone but quiet, like a guardian stepping back after the lesson was learned. Hours passed before anyone thought to check the news. Every broadcast was the same, static fading into the promise emblem, then a calm female voice repeating, "Connection restored. Remain where you are. You are safe." Kayla laughed softly. "Your press release aged well." Emma didn't answer. She was watching the sea, the place where light met water and the first gulls had begun to circle again. Somewhere beneath the waves, Promise's quantum lattice pulsed in time with the world itself. She whispered, "Hold steady, out of habit more than need." The air answered with silence, the good kind, the alive kind. For the first time in this lifetime, the planet was quiet. End of Book 1.